On Mother's Day, I surprised my mom with breakfast in bed, but she pushed it aside and said my sister had already given her something better, and in that silent moment I realized I wasn't part of her heart anymore. My name doesn't matter, but my story might save someone else from making the same mistakes I did. It started on Mother's Day morning. Not the cheating that came later. But this was when I first realized how broken my family had become, and how much of it was my fault. I woke early, like I had every Mother's Day for the past 5 years since Dad married Linda. Made Mom's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, fresh coffee, orange juice squeezed by hand. The works. I was proud of, honestly. Thought I was being the perfect son. Knocked softly on her door. Mom, happy Mother's Day. She opened the door and I saw it immediately. The forced smile. The one she'd been giving me more and more lately. Oh honey. That's very sweet of, but she didn't move aside to let me in. Just stood there in her robe, blocking the doorway like I was some stranger delivering food. I made favorites, I said, holding the tray. Just like when I was little, remember. That's when I heard giggling from inside her room. Female voices, no Dad's voice. Actually, sweetie. Mom said, her voice getting quieter. More careful. Melissa already brought me breakfast. We're having a little mother-daughter time right now. Melissa, my stepsister, who'd only been part of our family for 5 years, compared to my 23 years of being Mom's actual son. The tray felt heavier in my hands. Oh, I didn't know she was here. She stayed over last night. We had such a lovely evening together, just talking and laughing. Know how it is. But I didn't know how it was, because nobody had invited me to stay over. Nobody had told me about that lovely evening. Well, maybe we could all eat together, I tried, hating how desperate I sounded. Mom's eyes shifted away from mine. Maybe later, honey. Melissa put so much thought into her surprise, and we're right in the middle of something special. Through the door, I could see Melissa sitting legged on Mom's bed, wearing one of Mom's old nightgowns like they were best friends having a sleepover. She looked and waved at me with this bright, innocent smile that made my stomach turn. Hi Jake. Thanks for making breakfast for everyone. Everyone, like she belonged there more than I did. Mom finally took the tray from my hands, but she didn't invite me in. This looks wonderful, sweetheart. I'll have some later, okay? The door closed. I stood there in the hallway for I don't know how long, listening to their muffled conversation and laughter through the wood, trying to figure out when I'd become the outsider in my own family. That's when Sarah texted me. My girlfriend of 2 years. How did breakfast with Mom go? I couldn't tell her the truth, couldn't admit that my own mother had chosen my step-sister over me on Mother's Day, so I lied. Great, she loved it, we had such a nice morning together. Sarah texted back immediately. That's so sweet, you're such a good son. Can't wait to see her later. But I didn't want to see her later. I didn't want to pretend everything was fine. I didn't want to smile and act happy when I felt like my chest was caving in. So I drove around for hours instead. Ended at this bar across town where nobody would recognize me. Ordered drink after drink, trying to wash away the image of that closed door. That's where I met her. Chloe, she was sitting alone at the end of the bar, stirring her drink with this sad little smile that matched exactly how I felt. When she looked at me, her eyes were red, rimmed like she'd been crying too. Road day, she asked. The worst, I said. Mother's Day is complicated when Mom's been dead for 3 years. We started talking, really talking, about family and disappointment and feeling invisible and own. She listened to me complain about Melissa without rolling her eyes or telling me I was being dramatic. She got it. When she touched my arm while laughing at something I said, I didn't pull away. When she suggested we go to her apartment for just one more drink, I said yes. When she met me in her doorway, I her back. I told it wasn't really cheating. We were just two people comforting each other. Sarah would understand if she knew how broken I felt. This was just one night, one mistake, one moment of weakness. I was so wrong about everything. The guilt hit me the second I got home. Sarah was waiting on my couch, still in her pajamas, with a homemade card she'd made for me to give to my mom. How was the rest of day with family, she asked, snuggling to me like she always did. I smelled like clothes perfume, I tasted like lies. Fine. I said. Just family stuff, no. She smiled in my cheek. I'm so glad to have such a close relationship with Mom. It makes me love even more. That night, lying next to Sarah while she slept peacefully against my chest, I made every wrong decision possible. Instead of confessing, instead of coming clean, instead of dealing with my pain I decided to bury it. I told it was a one-time thing, a moment of weakness that would never happen again. I deleted Chloe's number from my phone and blocked her on social media. I away the business card she'd slipped into my jacket pocket. I convinced I could forget it ever happened. But 3 days later, she was waiting by my car after work. We need to talk, she said. And just like that, my started falling apart in ways I never could have imagined. Standing by my car in the company parking lot, looking at Chloe's face, I knew my was about to get infinitely more complicated. Block me, she said, not angry. Just, I had to. I whispered, looking around to make sure none of my coworkers could see us. What we did was wrong. I have a girlfriend. I know, do. She pulled out her phone. Sarah Martinez, right? Works at the veterinary clinic downtown. Really pretty. Loves hiking and makes pottery in her spare time. My went cold. How do you know that? I looked, Jake. Social media makes it easy. She showed me her phone screen. It was Sarah's Instagram account. Photos of us together smiling and happy. The I was about to destroy. What do want? I asked. I want to see again. That's not happening. She stepped closer. We're different that night. Real vulnerable. Not like the happy guy in these photos. Those aren't. That's my real. As it. Because the man who spent 4 hours telling me about feeling invisible and unwanted sure seemed pretty miserable in his real. She was right, and that's what made it so dangerous. Look, I said, I was having a bad day, I made a mistake, but I'm not leaving Sarah. I'm not asking to leave her. Chloe's voice got softer. I'm just asking not to disappear on me. What we shared was real, Jake. Don't pretend it wasn't. That was the moment I should have walked away. Should have told Sarah everything that night and faced the consequences like a man. Instead I said, I can't do this. One coffee, Chloe said. That's to talk. As friends. The most dangerous word in the English language when trying to stay faithful. One coffee, I heard say. That coffee turned into 2 hours of talking about our families, our dreams, our disappointments. Chloe had lost her mother to cancer and was struggling to connect with her stepfamily too. We had so much in common that it felt like fate. When Sarah texted me asking how my day was going, I told her I was still at work, another lie. When Chloe suggested we meet again the next week, I said yes. Another mistake. Within a month I was living two completely different lives. With Sarah, I was the devoted boyfriend planning our future together. She'd started talking about moving in together, maybe getting engaged next year. I played along, nodding and smiling while my insides twisted with guilt. With Chloe I was the real me. The broken, confused version who felt overlooked and undervalued. She made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. The worst part was how easy it became to leave. Working late again. Sarah would ask. I'd say already mentally planning my evening with Chloe. Seems stressed lately. Is everything okay? Just work stuff. Nothing to worry about. But Sarah wasn't. She started noticing things smell different, she said one night, curled next to me in bed. I don't know, like flowers. What kind of soap are they using at office? It was Chloe's perfume. I'd been so careful about everything else, but I'd forgotten about the scent that clung to my clothes. Must be the new cleaning service, I lied. Sarah accepted it, but I could see the tiny seed of doubt in her eyes. The lies multiplied like cancer. Each one required 3 more to support it. I had meetings, work emergencies, colleagues who needed my help with projects. I created an entire fictional version of my to hide the affair, but the real breaking point came at my cousin's wedding. Sarah and I were at the reception, dancing to some slow song, when I saw Melissa across the room. She was there with Mom and Dad, laughing at something Dad had said. Stepsister's really pretty, Sarah said, following my gaze. Yeah, I muttered. She seems really close with parents, yeah. Sarah pulled back to look at me. Are okay. I've been weird all night. I wasn't okay. Watching Melissa charm everyone at the wedding, seeing how naturally she fit into family conversations that I felt excluded from, brought back every feeling of inadequacy from Mother's Day. I need some air. I said. I went outside and called Chloe. She answered on the first ring. Jake, isn't this cousin's wedding night? I can't do this anymore, I said. Being around my family, pretending everything's fine with Sarah. I feel like I'm losing my mind. The Riverside Banquet Hall. I'll be there in 20 minutes. No, Chloe can't come here. Sarah's inside. Then meet me in the parking lot. 5 minutes. I just want to see. I should have hung. Should have gone back inside to my girlfriend and my family and tried to fix what was broken instead of running away from it. Instead I waited in the parking lot. Chloe arrived in a black dress that made my chest tight. She looked beautiful and dangerous and like everything I thought I wanted. Look miserable. She said, walking toward me. I feel miserable. Then why are still with her? Because, I started to say something about love and commitment and doing the right thing, but the words died in my throat. 'Cause she's safe. Chloe finished. Because she's the good choice, because everyone expects to be with someone like her. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time she really listened to, really saw, not the version of she wants to be, but the real? I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. Chloe stepped closer. When's the last time felt alive with her? Before I could answer I heard footsteps behind me. Jake, what are doing out here? I turned around and Sarah was standing there in her blue bridesmaid dress, looking confused and beautiful. Her eyes moved from me to Chloe, taking in the intimate expression on my face, the way we both looked like we'd been caught. Who is this? Sarah asked quietly. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Chloe extended her hand. I'm Chloe. I work with Jake. Sarah shook her hand automatically, but her eyes never Jake mentioned before. We've been working on a project together. Chloe said smoothly. Late nights know how it is. Right? Sarah said slowly. The big project. The 3 of us stood there in the parking lot, surrounded by the sound of music and laughter from inside the banquet hall, while my entire world balanced on his edge. I should get back inside, Chloe said. My date's probably looking for me. She wasn't there with anyone. We both knew it. But she squeezed my shoulder as she walked past, and I felt Sarah's body tense beside me. Nice meeting, Sarah, Chloe called over her shoulder. After she drove away, Sarah and I stood in silence. Jake, she said finally, her voice very small, "We're having an affair." This was my moment. My chance to come clean, to salvage what was left of our relationship, to stop the lies before they destroyed everything. No, I said. Of course not. But Sarah had already seen the truth in my eyes. We drove home in complete silence. She went straight to bed without saying goodnight. I sat in the living room until dawn, knowing that everything was about to fall apart, and that I had no one to blame but. The next morning Sarah was gone. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. I'm staying at my sister's for a few days. We need to talk, but I need time to think first. I love Jake, but I don't trust anymore, and I don't think trust either. She was right about everything. That afternoon, while I was sitting alone in our apartment surrounded by all the plans we'd made for a future that was slipping away, my phone rang. It was Mom. Jake, honey, I heard about last night at the wedding. Are okay. For a second I thought maybe someone had told her about Chloe. Maybe my destruction was already public knowledge. What do you mean? I asked. Melissa said seemed upset. She was worried about Melissa, of course. Even my pain had to go through her first. I'm fine, Mom. Sure. No can talk to me about anything. But I couldn't. Because talking to her meant admitting that I'd become exactly the kind of man she'd raised me not to be. Meant confessing that her perfect son was a liar and a cheat who was throwing away the best thing in his because he couldn't handle feeling invisible. I'm fine, I repeated. After I hung I called Chloe. Sarah knows, I said when she answered. How much does she know? There was a long pause. I'm sorry, Jake. I never meant for her to get pot, but that was a lie too. Chloe had meant for exactly this to happen. She'd wanted me to choose her over Sarah, wanted me to my for her. What do we do now? I asked. No, we stopped pretending this was just physical. Now we admit that what we have is real. And Sarah was never right for know that. But Sarah had been right for me. She'd been perfect for me. She'd loved me and trusted me and built a future around me, and I'd repaid her by becoming someone she didn't recognize. That night Sarah came home. Sarah came home that night with red eyes and a suitcase. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd planned our future together just months before, and said the words that shattered everything. I know about the affair, Jake. I know about all of it. My stomach dropped. Sarah, I can explain. Can. Because I spent the last 3 days doing something I never thought I'd do. I hired someone to follow. She pulled out a manila envelope and spread photos across the table. Me and Chloe at coffee shops. Me and Chloe walking into her apartment building. Me and Chloe kissing in parking lots. 6 months of lies laid out in glossy print. I kept telling I was crazy, Sarah said, her voice eerily calm. That I was being paranoid and jealous for no reason, but my gut knew Jake. It knew we're lying to me every single day. I stared at the photos, seeing through her eyes for the first time. I looked like a stranger, a man I didn't recognize. How long? She'd asked. Sarah, please. How long, Jake? 6 months, I whispered. She flinched like I'd hit her. 6 months. While I was planning our future. While I was looking at engagement rings. While I was telling my family how perfect we're. I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen. Every day for 6 months, it happened. She picked one of the photos. It showed me laughing at something Chloe had said, looking happier than I'd looked in any picture with Sarah in over a year. To love her? Sarah asked. The question hung in the air like a, I could lie one more time, try to salvage something from the wreckage. Or I could finally tell the truth. I don't know, I said. Sarah nodded slowly. At least that's honest. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the street where we'd planned to build our together. I called off work tomorrow, she said. I'm moving out. My brother's come in to help. Sarah, wait, can we talk about this? Can't we try to work through it? She turned around and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not something worse. Emptiness. Work through what, Jake? The lying, the cheating, the fact that chose someone else over me every day for 6 months. I chose I'm here with Bond. No, or not. Haven't been here in months. I've been dating a ghost. She was right. I'd been going through the motions with her while living my real emotional with Chloe. I kept wondering what I did wrong. Sarah continued. What I could have done differently to keep interested. But it wasn't about me, was it? It was about whatever's broken inside that makes need to people who love. Her words hit harder than screaming would have. This quiet, devastated Sarah was worse than any tantrum. I'm sorry, I said, knowing how inadequate it sounded. I know are. But sorry doesn't give me back the 6 months I loving someone who was lying to me. Sorry doesn't give me back my ability to trust. Sorry doesn't fix what broke. The next morning, she was gone. The apartment felt like a tomb. I called in sick to work and sat in our empty bedroom, surrounded by the ghost of our relationship. Her side of the closet was empty. Her books were gone from the nightstand. Even her coffee mug was missing from the kitchen sink. It was like she'd never existed except for the giant hole she'd left behind. I called Chloe. She moved out, I said when she answered. I'm sorry, Jake. I know this is hard, as it, because part of me feels relieved, and that makes me sick. Feel relieved because can finally be honest about what want. What do I want, Chloe? There was a pause. Want me? But sitting in that empty apartment, I realized I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I destroyed my relationship with Sarah for something that suddenly felt hollow and meaningless. Come over, Chloe said. Let me take care of point. So I did. Because I didn't know what else to do with all the pain and guilt and self-loathing. For 2 weeks, I practically lived at Chloe's apartment. We played house pretending we were a real couple, pretending this was what I'd wanted all along. But it felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. When Chloe suggested I officially move in with her, I panicked. It's too soon, I said. Too soon, Jake. We've been together for 6 months. We've been having an affair for 6 months. That's different. Her face hardened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I don't know who we are when we're not sneaking around. I don't know if this is real or if it's just the thrill of doing something forbidden. So now we're having second thoughts. After I helped realize that Sarah was wrong for, didn't help me realize anything, took advantage of me when I was vulnerable. The words came out meaner than I'd intended, but they were true. Chloe stared at me for a long moment. We're gonna try to get her back, aren't? I didn't answer cause I didn't know. Good luck with that, Chloe said coldly. Because she's already moved on. What do you mean? Chloe pulled out her phone and showed me Sarah's Instagram. There was a new photo from the night before. Sarah at some restaurant laughing with a group of friends, looking genuinely happy for the first time in months. She looked beautiful, free, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The caption read, remembering what it feels like to be again. She looks better without, Chloe said. Younger, happier. She was right. Sarah looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, before I'd slowly drained the joy out of her with my selfishness and lies. I went home that night and tried to call her. It went straight to voicemail. Sarah, it's me. I know probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to know how sorry I am. I made the worst mistake of my and I'll do anything to fix it. Please call me back. She never did. Over the next few weeks, I tried everything. I sent flowers to her work. I wrote letters. I showed at places I knew she'd be. Finally her brother Mike called me. Jake, need to stop. I just want to talk to her. She doesn't want to talk to. She's trying to heal and keep ripping the wound open. I love her, Mike. No, don't. If loved her, wouldn't have spent 6 months lying to her. If loved her, leave her alone. He was right but I couldn't let go. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. I was walking out of the grocery store when I saw them. Sarah and some guy I didn't recognize loading groceries into his car. She was laughing at something he said, looking at him the way she used to look at me. He was tall, clean, probably successful. Everything I should have been but wasn't. When he opened the car door for her, she smiled in his cheek. It was innocent, sweet. The kind of gesture that meant they were still in the early stages, still discovering each other. Sarah looked and saw me standing there with my mouth open like an. For a second our eyes met across the parking lot. I saw her face change, saw her happiness dim just a little. Then she turned away and got in his car. They drove past me without stopping. That night, I called my mom. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to talk to someone who was supposed to love me unconditionally. Jakey. It's late, honey. Yes, Sarah and I broke. Oh no. I'm so sorry. What happened? I could have lied. Could have said we grew apart or wanted different things. Could have preserved the last shred of respect my mother had for me. I cheated on her, I said. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung. Oh Jake, she finally said, and her voice was full of disappointment and sadness. How could do that to someone who loved? I don't know. Yes, do. Made a choice, made dozens of choices. Every time saw that other woman chose to Sarah. Hearing my mother say it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. What do I do now? I asked. Learn from it, figure out why sabotage something good. And never, ever do it again. What if I can't fix this? What if I've ruined everything? Then live with the consequences, Mom said simply. That's what adults do. After I sat in my empty apartment and realized something terrible. This was my now. This was what I'd chosen when I'd chosen the affair over my relationship. This loneliness, this regret, this knowledge that I'd destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me for something that had never been real to begin with. Chloe stopped calling after I ignored her for a week. She'd moved on to someone new, someone who could give her the excitement and drama she craved. Sarah moved on too. 6 months later, I saw her engagement announcement on Facebook. The same guy from the parking lot, down on one knee in front of the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. She looked radiant, complete, like she'd never been happier. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark, thinking about Mother's Day morning when this all started. When I'd felt invisible and unwanted and had used that pain to justify destroying everything good in my. The truth is I hadn't been invisible. Sarah had seen me, she'd loved me. She'd built her whole future around me. I just hadn't been able to see past my own selfishness and insecurity to appreciate what I had. Now I get to live with that knowledge for the rest of my. Every morning when I wake alone, I remember what I'd away. Every time I see a happy couple I remember what I destroyed. Every time someone asks me why I'm still single at 30, I remember the choice I made in a parking lot 6 years ago that cost me everything. Some mistakes get to fix, some people forgive, some wounds heal, but some decisions echo forever, and all can do is live with the sound.